This is appropriate. I spent 20 minutes on this kid on my podcast this week, and I think he's one of the most, I don't want to say misunderstood, but I think there's a segment of the internet that seems to think he's like a top 10 player based on some different data points. He's a kid that I've compared to Robbie Grossman for a while. I think he's going to be a high on base corner guy. He can shift to center field and play an average center field if you need him to. And he'll ambush a ball here and there. You know, I think it might be plus raw power, but the thing with Ledbetter is some of the parts in his swing really are a detriment to his ability to make consistently hard contact. So this is going to come down to which team thinks that they can make a small tweak to his swing, get him hitting the ball with more ferocity more often. And I think that is actually a taller player development ask. Like, just the ability to manipulate the barrel, I think is a more so intrinsic trait than it is teachable in a lot of ways. It's like you can either hit a golf ball or you can't, right? It takes hand-eye. And so for Ledbetter, for me, like, I think, listen, the team that jumps off the page to me is the Brewers at 18. I don't think he's going to go that high. I just don't. I think the conversation really starts because nobody from 19 through 25 is going to take him. I do think the Yankees at 26, considering their draft history, they've gone for models with Austin Wells and Trey Sweeney and Spencer Jones, all raw power left-handed hitters. I think maybe the Yankees could be interested at 26, but to your point, I tend to think Ledbetter begins to make sense at about 32, 33, 34. And again, he's a guy that I think could fall all the way to the 60 range, depending on who believes they can get a hitter out of him.
Yeah, 6'2", about 210, a left-handed bat. Like as you said, can play a little bit of center field. If you're interested in his numbers, entering the tournament, 320, 12 homers, 12 doubles, 47 walks, 36 strikeouts in 252 plate appearances. So, and he does have 17 stolen bases too. So, are we talking about above average to plus speed here? Or are we just talking about average speed and really good instincts and just getting good reads off pitchers? Why the 17 stolen bases?
Yeah, I think he's an instinctual guy. I've only watched a little bit of his base running film. It's not a great first step, but he does. He is willing to move. I mean, he's been batting at the top of the Mississippi State lineup. They're a power over everything type of a team, so he likes to put the game in motion. I don't know, man. I just struggle with this. Like, you're talking about a 18 or 19% walk rate in the SEC. I know SEC pitching across the country is down a little bit, but if I remember looking back, he's rocking like a 30 or a 31% swing rate. He's extremely passive, and like the passive approach has actually knocked like a guy like Brock Wilken down boards a little bit. So that's something worth considering. I think this might ultimately end up being a guy that needs more development than people are assuming, even though his chase rates and his walk rates are so high. I think that can work to your detriment when you get to a place like high A and double A when guys are throwing a lot of strikes. So he's a tough one for me. I'm with you. I should say I'm with you kind of in the Yo-Yo Morales camp. I think he starts more so in the second round, but maybe there's a model team that falls in love with it. Yeah, he's a tricky one.
And that's the thing these days. Player development has changed over the last 10 or 20 years. And it seems to continue to change and evolve at a pretty rapid pace with data, biomechanics, and things like that, all kinds of specialty training facilities. It's a year-round thing as much as it's ever been, more than it's ever been for these kids. So there we go, Colton Ledbetter. So 18 in Milwaukee, probably the absolute ceiling, but really the early 30s is where you think it's most likely, but he could even get to the 60s unless a team falls in love with him. All right, Colton Ledbetter. Here's another one that's really interesting. Brayden Taylor. Now I look at Taylor and I see an athletic third baseman. Can you squeeze him in at second? That's my first thought. Can you squeeze a guy over to second base? Because then I'm more confident that his bat plays. And you look at the numbers. Freshman year, he hit 324 with 12 homers. Pretty even strikeout to walk ratio. Then he hit 314 with 55 walks and 40 strikeouts. Now he's back to even on the walks and strikeouts. Strikeouts probably a little high, but the power is up, 19 homers. The slugging percentage is up 50 points, 60 points. but he's only hitting 297. And that's not necessarily a conference where you forgive, relatively lower batting average. Like, we didn't blink a whole lot on Ledbetter hitting 320 in the SEC. But 297 at TCU for Brayden Taylor. What's the knock on Taylor? And what are the things teams generally like about him that have him pretty firmly, at least in the first round conversation? And where do you see him going as a high point and a low point?
Yeah, so this kid's kind of the antithesis of Yo-Yo Morales. Really low BABIP, and he hits the ball really hard. But I think he's running like a 270 BABIP in college baseball, which is extremely low for a sport that nobody can field the ball right. in college baseball. So I think he was probably due a better season than what he actually put forth. You kind of hit the nail on the head, man. Like, this is a really athletic third baseman. He played shortstop for a lot of his sophomore year, last year. And I think the internal clock has just not quite taken to third base. He kind of, he rushes things a little bit, but models are going to love him. He is barely 21 years old, so he's got that going for him. A really, really young junior. I think the thing that teams are struggling with a little bit with Taylor is he struggled to hit a lot of pitches in the strike zone this year. And you kind of want to see guys that can handle spin, handle velocity in the strike zone, especially for a guy like Taylor that doesn't chase. He would be, it's 1A and 1B for Morales and Taylor. I think both of them offer something unique. Taylor's a lefty, Morales a righty. I think both of them offer a unique profile. They're the top two third basemen on my board. I think a model team like the Orioles at 17, which is where I mocked him, makes some sense. But depending on how much teams question the bat to ball, I think maybe he has a chance to fall to like 36 or something. Point is, I think he's going to go higher than Morales as a floor, because I think you kind of look at the swing decisions and you look at the floor of the player. I think he makes a little bit more sense as a left-handed hitter. I think he probably has the potential to go higher than Morales. But I also think there's the chance that, this kid's going to have a lot of strikeout issues just because the bat to ball isn't as good as you'd like it to be.
How much of the value in Taylor do you think can be attributed to the athleticism and the chance that maybe you can get some second base out of him, or if third base doesn't take, you can throw him out into even center field?
Well, he's not a very good runner, is my apprehension. It's mostly average to fringe average. I think that could improve with conditioning, but I think Morales is just as good, if not a better athlete, rangier, and he's got a stronger arm. So I think Taylor could play second base. I don't think he is good enough for center. A lot of guys can profile into left field. But I think when you stack this kid up against all the other college third basemen, he's got a better shot than most to stay at third base. Jason, I genuinely think it's just a reps thing, because he's twitchy, he's got bounce, he can move to his left and his right, and he's got a strong arm. He just rushes things and he kind of loses his feet.
Hey, I'm willing to wait on guys, because Nolan Arenado, one of the greatest defensive third basemen of all time, like truly, and along with Matt Chapman, the elite third baseman defensively in Major League Baseball the last 7 or 8 years, continues to be into his 30s, was a terrible defensive player in the minors. Terrible. And people were like, there's no way he's going to stick at third. That was you remember this? That was the scene with Arenado. It was like, good Lord, just throw him to first base or into right field already. I'm tired of watching this. And all of a sudden, he flips the switch and becomes not just playable or average, but like literally premium and elite at that particular position. So maybe that's Brayden Taylor down line.
So what I'm hearing is you're comparing Brayden Taylor to Eddie Matthews.
I'm comparing Brayden Taylor to the creative player in MLB The Show. That's what I'm doing. Where you can just move those dials.